Well, there you go. I am Brian Wilson. Chad Benson is not in today. I don't want you to be disappointed. We're gonna fill in for Chad and do our very best all the way till 3 o'clock. Chad's going to be off today. Take a little Thanksgiving break, and he's going to be off Monday, and I'll be in for that. So I'll be here for a couple of shows. It's that time of year, quite frankly, where the full-time people, and I used to be one of them. Now I'm a part-time person, but the full-time people are, they got a lot of vacation time they got to work through. So I'll be on quite a bit between now and the new year. So hope that you will, when you hear me you'll just stop and hang out for a little bit. I want to get right in today to the District 7 congressional race between Matt Van Epps, the Republican, and Afton Bain, who will be the bane of our existence if she's elected. See what I did there? And where we are on that whole thing. Look, I mean, the way this district is sort of designed, Republicans should win. I mean, Republicans dominate everything except Davidson County. But, there's some things that have, in recent days, made us a little nervous about this particular case, this particular race. And we really did not have a lot of polling data on it. And I know. Before you go, take it or leave it. It doesn't matter. But if you are concerned about the race, and you're looking at this poll, it's understandable why. Came out this morning. This is new stuff. You haven't heard it yet. Came out this morning. Emerson College Polling, in association with thehill.com. They released a poll at 8:15 this morning that showed that Van Epps, the former commissioner of the Tennessee Department of General Services, at about 49%, and Bain at 47%. In other words, the Republican leads the Democrat by about 2 points there, if you believe the poll. That's after factoring in the undecideds. So, that's pretty tight, and that's concerning. And that's why I think you have seen in recent days Democrats crashing the boards on behalf of Afton Bain. They see an opportunity here. And here's my concern. I mean, I really am deeply concerned about this. Here's the real bottom line of my concern is that I think that the Democrats right now are very motivated in a way that I think Republicans perhaps are not. They are angry. They don't like what's going on. They don't like, I mean, if you're a real dyed-in-the-wool, red dog or yellow dog Democrat, then, you're probably not real happy with the way things are going in the Donald Trump world, in the Republican world. And you see this as an opportunity to strike back. And so Democrat voters are going to be highly motivated to get to the voting booth. Today, by the way, the last day to early vote. Last day. So looking at these polls and looking at just, what common sense tells you is that Democrats are motivated right now in a way that the Republicans are not. I'm a little nervous about this particular race. I really am. And I think that we need to be very, very careful. And we, on our side of the equation, need to make sure that we are casting our ballot if we are eligible to do so. I mean, some of the counties where this district race is in play: Decatur, Dixon, Hickman, Houston, Humphreys, Montgomery, Perry, Robertson, Stewart, Wayne, Williamson County. There's 6 candidates on the ballot, but really most of the attention is between the Republican and the Democrat, with, according to this poll today, Matt Van Epps, who is, by the way, a good candidate. He's a solid guy. I got the opportunity to moderate a debate between the Republican candidates, and, he went on after that debate to win. And I will tell you, I wouldn't say anything at the time because I don't feel like it's my job to get into the primary. I really don't. But when he won the primary, I felt I could go ahead and say what I really thought about that whole experience. And what I really thought about that whole experience was he was very good. I thought he won the debate, quite frankly. So I like him. I think he's good. I think he's solid. A lot of this nonsense that the Democrats are throwing at him is just that nonsense. So let's go through this poll in greater detail from thehill.com. Here we go. Now again, if you don't believe the polling data, then take all this with a grain of salt, but I think you need to at least be aware of it, okay? That's my job. Democrat Afton Bain, Republican Matt Van Epps are polling neck and neck in a Tennessee special election to replace former Representative Mark Green, according to a new poll. I gave you all the details there. Here's sort of the some of the stuff that's deep within it. When you look at beyond just the main number, what is the big issue? The economy. The economy rated as the most important issue among respondents at 38%. The other issue, which has been raised by the Bain campaign, is housing affordability, 15%, healthcare at 13%. So, and I think this is right. Spencer Kimball, executive director of Emerson College Polling, in his press release said the following: the special election in Tennessee's 7th district will come down to what groups are motivated to turn out on election day and who stays home. Now, this is conducted between the 22nd and the 24th. 600 likely voters and respondents who have already, and some of them who have already voted. So there you go. I think the Democrats traditionally vote early, Republicans vote on day of, and it's nip and tuck right now. So I think if we don't have a good day on election day or today, this thing, if these polls are accurate, it could be a very, very close race. Maybe it's not. I mean, there are those who think it's not, and there are those who have pointed out, and I think Dan Mandis pointed this out this morning when I talked to him about it. It does seem that in the last couple of days, some of the crazy stuff that she has been saying over the years has come out in a bigger way, and it probably has had an impact that may not have been picked up in the polls. And it's entirely the Tennessee Star is raising questions about, the poll mix. The number of Democrats and Republicans that were polled may not be a real true representation of the district as it actually is. For example, in the poll, they said 53% said that they had voted for Trump in the last election. But actually, in that particular area, 59% did. So they may be undercounting, they may be overcounting Democrats and undercounting Republicans. But there also is the very real possibility that Afton Bain, and some of the things that she said that have emerged in recent days will have an impact on these numbers that has not shown up in the polling because it was basically dropping about the time the poll was in the field. Afton Bain hates Nashville.
I hate the city. I hate the bachelorettes. I hate the pedal taverns. I hate country music. I hate all of the things that make Nashville, apparently, an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it.
She hates it. She hates the city that she wants to represent, the area she wants to represent. I mean, I know the district goes beyond Davidson County. Don't get me wrong. But I have to point out that, when you're traveling and somebody says, where are you from? I live in Watertown. If I'm talking to people locally, I say I live over in Watertown. But if I'm talking to people from another area, what do I say? I live in Nashville. I don't really live in Nashville, but that's just, that gives people a frame of reference, and that's what we say. Oh, I live in the Nashville area. I live in Nashville. Anyway, I think that when you represent an area, you ought to at least like the area that you represent and the people who live there.
I hate the city. I hate the bachelorettes. I hate the pedal taverns. I hate country music. I hate all of the things that make Nashville apparently an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it.
But she's a wackadoodle, man. I mean, this woman is bona fide nutso. I mean, really, honestly, she's out there. Way out. Beyond her political beliefs. She says weird things, in my opinion. Here is the latest one, where she talks about a recurring dream that she had. And this is troubling on many different levels.
I've had is standing up in a cafeteria full of women. I don't know why I was there or whatever, and saying, I don't want children, I want power, and just screaming it at the top of my lungs. And for someone who grew up with my mother telling me never have kids because you'll have to give up a lot. You'll have to sacrifice professionally, which is what she was saying. And where I am now with seeing the consequences and the ramifications of women having kids.
So, first of all, she has dreams where she has, stands up in a cafeteria of women filled with women and says weird things. But then there's this little part of it where she starts talking about, what her mom told her.
For someone who grew up with my mother telling me never have kids because you'll have to give up a lot. You'll have to sacrifice professionally, which is what she was saying.
Just stop and think about the psychological damage that is done when a mother turns to the child and says, I wish I hadn't had children. I mean, what does that tell you? That you were not wanted or that she regretted having a child? That's just weird that a mom would say that to her daughter. And it basically what's saying is, I regret that I had children. Don't do what I did when you're the child. I regret that I had you. It's nuts. Just absolutely nuts. So anyway, there we are. This race is going to be very interesting. As I said, early voting ends today. If you get the opportunity to drop by and cast your ballot, you need to make sure we do. We'll keep watching it very closely to see whether or not this turns out to be something that is going to be worthy of our time, and whether it's going to continue to look like it's going south. But it doesn't look, I think, there are reasons to be concerned. I think the reasons may be overblown. It's entirely possible that this poll is not as accurate as it could be because of the sample, because of when it was in the field and things have happened, and it's a very fluid situation. But I'm telling you, better safe than sorry. If you're a conservative, if you're a Republican, if you're an independent, you got to get out there and vote for Matt Van Epps, because I'm telling you, he's a pretty solid citizen, and she's a wackadoodle, in my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. I'm just one man, but man, when you listen to some of the stuff that's been said out there by her, it makes you wonder, who is this woman, and is she really up to the job of being our representative in Congress? We'll call it 20 minutes past the hour now at 12 o'clock.
The very last pending criminal case against President Trump has come to an end. And if your travel plans include the upper Midwest, you want to pack your heavy winter coat and your patience. You may be in for a challenge today. We'll have those stories coming up at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, that's Jay Harper in the newsroom. Ken Weaver taking some time off. He's going home to have a little... And Bill Kay is in the studio, pushing all the blinky buttons. Bill, good to be with you today.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, everything going well? You got big plans for the holiday?
I'm actually going over Chad's.
Oh, really? Chad's going to feed you, is he?
He is.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, tell him I said hey.
Will do.
So I want to talk in the last few minutes before we go to the news at the bottom of the hour about this big breaking news today that the case against Trump from the 2020 election that was brought by Fannie Willis Take a load off Fannie. Well, apparently she's been disqualified from the case some time ago, replaced by a person named Peter Skandalakis. He has now filed a motion with the Fulton County Superior Court informing it of his decision to abandon the prosecution of Mr. Trump and more than a dozen others, including former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Listen to this. According to CBS News, he wrote in a memo accompanying the notice that overt acts listed in the indictment that were taken by the president and the Republicans, quote, are not acts that I would consider sufficient to sustain a racketeering case. Skandalakis said that after reviewing the evidence, he concluded that a federal prosecution was more appropriate than one pursued by the state of Georgia, and said the strongest and most prosecutable case against those who allegedly sought to overturn the results of the 2020 election was the one being pursued by former special counsel Jack Smith. Now, if you remember, the president was charged with 4 federal counts stemming from an alleged effort to subvert the transfer of power after the 2020. It was always a BS. I'm sorry, it really was. So BS. That was so BS, that whole case. But now that Fannie is out of the way, cooler heads have prevailed and the case has been dropped. Good news for Trump and 18 associates indicted by a Fulton County grand jury in August of 2023 under Georgia's racketeering law and were accused of coordinating a scheme to thwart certification of the 2020 election results. You know, basically, this all, I think, mostly came down to Trump's speech on January 6th. And the Democrats are trying to say that he was trying to have them go down there and disrupt the counting of the votes, among other things. I think this was one of the main allegations in the lawsuit. But, you know, I was there on January 6th, and that's not what I saw. That's not what I saw at all. I saw a great number of people who were, you know, after hearing Trump speak on one end of Pennsylvania Avenue, decided to walk down. In fact, quite frankly, if you're suggesting that the things that Donald Trump said on one end of Pennsylvania Avenue caused what happened on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, I can blow that up in about 10 seconds because I was standing right there on the corner watching it happen. And the people who were causing the trouble were already way down the street before Trump ever opened his mouth. They were already there. So they didn't hear what Trump had to say. They didn't know what he was saying on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue. So that was always, I thought, a very, very weak case. Here's NBC News. I went to ABC, CBS, and NBC News because this is breaking news, and they had the earliest accounts. The Georgia prosecutor who took over the 2020 election interference case after Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis was disqualified said in a statement Wednesday he's dropping the charges against President Donald Trump and his co-defendants. In my professional opinion, the citizens in Georgia are not well served by pursuing this case in full for another 5 to 10 years. He was ending the case to serve the interest of justice and to promote judicial finality. How about that? Pretty strong. The decision is not guided by a desire to advance agenda, but based on my beliefs and understanding of the law. Trump's defense lawyer Steve Sadow praised the decision in a statement, quote, the political persecution of Donald Trump by a disqualified DA, Fannie Willis, is finally over. This case should never have been brought, and he's right about that. It should never have been brought. A fair and impartial prosecutor has put an end to this lawfare. I'm glad that that's over. I'm glad that that's done. Who knows what this other guy's going to do? But we'll see. In the meantime, Jack Smith may come out with something, but who knows? In my opinion, this was the right decision. Fannie Willis was pursuing a prosecution as a vendetta. And that is never the way our legal system is supposed to work. She just didn't like Donald Trump. And that's really what it all came down to. At 30 minutes past the hour, time for Jay Harper in the news. It is 37 minutes past the hour of 12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Chad Benson, taking a day off. He's got to brine the turkey, and he's got to get everything ready. And, Bell says he's going over to have turkey with Chad Benson. Does Chad know about cornbread dressing is the question.
I don't know. I know the other day he was saying he didn't like, as he put it, butt stuffing.
Yeah, no.
So this is different, though, right?
See, stuffing is in the bird, dressing is outside the bird.
Gotcha.
And cornbread dressing is really the only dressing worth your time. Just saying. I've been an evangelist for cornbread dressing ever since I went to Washington, and I found out that people there don't know anything about cornbread dressing. And I was shocked, stunned, and amazed. And I brought in to the newsroom there. When I worked for Channel 5 in Washington. I brought in cornbread dressing. And I had many converts. And since then, I've decided I need to be an evangelist for cornbread dressing. Nothing I like better. So anyway, there's that. By the way, when you put the food on the table, it will cost you less this year than it did last year. Here's one example, one survey that, there's a lot of people who do this, but this particular survey said that the cost of a meal is about $55. It's 5% down from 2024, a 13.8% decrease from the record high price of $64 back in 2022. It's It means we've sort of worked our way through the avian flu. That's part of it. There are cheaper wheat prices, which means that helps to feed the animals. And they say, some falling demand. Encouraging to see some relief in the price of turkeys, as it is typically the most expensive part of the meal, said economist Faith Parham. Farmers are still working to rebuild turkey flocks that were devastated by avian influenza. Turkeys led the Thanksgiving reprieve. A 16-pound turkey, down 16% since last year to $21.50. So, it's not going to cost you as much to put that food on the table. Thank you, Donald Trump. We are blessed to live in a country that is capable of producing such abundant food supply, and for that we should be thankful. Despite modest declines in the cost of a Thanksgiving meal, food prices, he goes on to say, are a real problem for many people in America. Yeah, but I am glad to see the prices down, and I think that is end result of the things that Donald Trump has done. In fact, here's a little example of things that are going well with the Trump economy. Sales at U.S. retailers and restaurants increased modestly in September as resilient consumers moderated their spending after splurging over the summer. In other words, they spent over the summer, and as they head into, September, it slowed a little bit, but it's still above what it was year to year. Sales rose 0.2% in September from the previous month, the Commerce Department said Tuesday, and a report delayed more than a month because of the government shutdown. Sales jumped 0.6% in July and August, 1% in June. Numerous reports on inflation, employment, spending, and growth remain delayed. And, I wouldn't put a great deal of confidence in that number. Could be better, but it takes them a while to get caught up after the government has been closed down. Retail figures, which aren't adjusted for inflation, suggest Americans pulled back on spending in September, perhaps, but they're still spending more than they were. So there you go. MIT, meanwhile, has done a study that gives us maybe a little concern about the horizon, what's on the horizon with this artificial intelligence stuff that everybody's talking about. I mean, the artificial intelligence, I think, look, it's here to stay. It's going to be there. I think we would be wise to watch very closely what happens with AI, because I think AI can spin out of control. I will tell you that AI is good, and it has a lot of positive things about it, but it can also be wrong, just incredibly wrong. But it can replace a lot of people who are already in the work market. Are you ready for this? The Massachusetts Institute of Technology on Wednesday, today, released a study that found that artificial intelligence can already replace about 12% of the U.S. labor market. I mean, for one, I'll give you a perfect example of this. We told our kids, hey, when you go to college, study how to do websites and how to code. But now AI does all that. You hire somebody in your PR department to write press releases. AI can do that. I mean, AI can do so many things well that it could well replace about 12% of our workforce. Study was conducted using a labor simulation tool called Iceberg Index, which was created by MIT and the people here in Tennessee at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. The index simulates how 151 U.S. let's do that again. The index simulates how 151 million U.S. workers, 151 million U.S. workers interact across the country and how they are affected by AI and corresponding policy. So it's a forward look at how AI may reshape the labor market, not just in coastal tech, but in states all across the country. For lawmakers preparing billion-dollar reskilling and training investments, the index offers a detailed map of where disruption is forming down to the zip code. We're creating a digital twin for the U.S. labor market, says this is the people at MIT. And so they're able to get a good bead on what will happen when AI comes on board in a bigger way. It's not a prediction engine about exactly when or where jobs will be lost. It's meant to give a skills-centered snapshot of what today's AI systems can already do and give policymakers a structured way to explore what-if scenarios before they commit real money and real legislation. I think could be very helpful. Tennessee moved first because part of this is coming out of Tennessee, citing the Iceberg Index as its official AI workforce action plan. Utah leaders are preparing to release a similar report based on this computer modeling. North Carolina State Representative DeAndrea Salvador, who has worked closely with MIT on the project, said what drew her to the research is how it surfaces effects that traditional tools miss. But don't miss the headline here. The headline here is that AI is going to change the world as we know it. It's going to dramatically change the workplace. And many of the jobs that people within the sound of my voice have now could well be replaced over time by AI. So, this whole idea of, learn to code, I mean, you have to rethink what our kids are studying in school. I don't know, with most technology that comes along, I think what happens is that we are at first wary of it, and then it becomes more accepting, and we start to take that technology and apply it to our lives, apply it in our workplace, apply it in the things that we do every day with the computer. And then what we find is that over time, you know what? This is pretty interesting. This helps me out a lot. I've used AI on some stuff, and I've found it to be pretty good. The problem is you need a human with real good judgment to make sure that AI got it right. There's some things that, just the experiences I've had as a journalist and in the news business for many, many years, there's sort of little things that AI does now and then that send off alarm bells for me, and I've gone back and checked it. But most most people do not have the background that I have in this regard, and that is, most people haven't spent their life focused on the news to the extent that I have. So I think I'm able to pick up on some of it, and it's there, and you got to know it. The problem is, what if you don't recognize that AI got it wrong? But one way or the other, it's going to have a big change in what happens out there in the workplace as we go forward and we try to decide what kind of technology, are we going to be able to replace with artificial intelligence? And where are the boundaries where we say we shouldn't use AI for this? I personally think, for example, I'm a little worried when the military starts talking about using AI to have planes that fly on their own, or ships that cruise the ocean on their own, that have weaponry. I'm not sure I want the human element still in there before the trigger is pulled, and I hope that never goes away. There has to be the human element injected into AI. AI presents you with options, and then the human makes the final call, is the way I would like to see it. I think that's the best way to go. One way or the other, I think we are in the next year, we will see tremendous advances in this AI arena. Now, since it's the holidays, and, we're heading into Thanksgiving tomorrow, and then into the Christmas season, it's a little slow today, and I thought I wanted to do something coming up in the next hour. And I want to talk about this so that you understand what we're going to be doing, and you can choose to stick around if you want. I hope that you will. If you're not aware, there's Bill, you were saying that you have heard about it, but you don't know a lot about it, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, there's a documentary out called Age of Disclosure. Now, as anybody used to listen to my old program in the evenings, you know that occasionally I like to revisit these issues that have to do with UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, what we used to call UFOs. Our military service people are seeing things, especially in the Navy. Not so much the Air Force, interestingly enough, but in the Navy, and I'll tell you why that is later. But they see things that they can't explain. And we've actually had people who have, even back during the Biden administration, confessing that there are things going on out there in the world that we can't explain. Here, let's go back to the Biden years. John Kirby, the podium of the White House.
The United States believe that there may be life outside of Earth.
What we believe is that there are unexplained aerial phenomena that have been cited and reported by pilots, Navy and Air Force, that these phenomena have, in some cases, had an impact on our training ranges, on our pilots' ability to fly, train, operate, and stay ready. That alone makes it a national security issue worth looking at. We don't know. We don't have the answers about what these phenomena are.
Yeah, we don't have the answers to what these phenomenon are. But we're going to spend the next hour, because this documentary cost you $20 to watch. Many people have not watched it. So I have taken some time here to go through the documentary and pull out a bunch of different clips that I think will blow your mind when you hear from 34 high-ranking government officials, from the Secretary of State all the way to a one-star admiral, talk about the things that they know, the things that they have seen. It's pretty mind-blowing. And we're going to spend a full hour going into that, and we'll be taking your calls on it coming up in the next hour. Right now, 50 minutes past the hour of 12 o'clock. Jay Harper, I really love what Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, has said about traveling.
Yeah,
we need to sort of up our game. We need to be polite to one another. We need to dress a little better when we go to the airport. A little better.
And I'm seeing stories literally right now on the TVs in here in the studio about people pushing back on the dressing up comment. You know, I mean, I understand people wanting to be maybe a little more comfortable on some of these flights because flying is uncomfortable as it is.
It's an uncomfortable experience, and especially when you're 6'4" and those in the tight seats.
I know. Yeah, I'm a big man like yourself, especially. But you know, I comment on that all the time when I fly. I see people that look like they just got through mowing the lawn.
Or it looks like they're in their jammies.
Yeah, or flip flops and just nasty T-shirts. It's like, come on.
And there's a video out there of a guy sitting in the window seat, so there's somebody next to him, and he's scraping the calluses off his bare feet during the flight.
Just disgusting stuff like that.
I mean, who thinks that's appropriate?
Anywhere, much less the close confines of an airline.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any real problems today at the airport. Everything going okay as far as we know?
Well, the upper Midwest is seeing some issues with weather. There's some snow up there, and it's kind of, Detroit and Minneapolis, those places, Milwaukee, they're seeing some travel issues. But aside from that, most of the country, from a weather standpoint, really shouldn't see any delays, I guess, unless your plane is maybe originating from in the upper Midwest.
Yeah, I think it's changed over the years. It used to be the day before Thanksgiving was a big travel day. People would try to catch a flight or get on the roads. But I think it's moved up a little bit. I think it's more like, I think Tuesday is considered now the big travel day, isn't it?
Yes. That's what AAA is saying, that more and more folks are getting away on their getaway day as turned into Tuesday. You're right.
Well, have you done any research on this documentary, The Age of Disclosure?
No, Brian. I must admit that's a new topic for me.
Well, listen, I think you're going to be fascinated by the next hour. I mean, even if you're a non-believer, and I'm not sure where I am, but the things that are said in this documentary by really smart people. I mean, these aren't folks who, some hillbilly with missing teeth that saw something.
Right.
These are like the Secretary of State, an admiral, two highly respected pilots, astrophysicists who worked on the UAP retrieval program, who are now coming forward.
Yeah,
it's
reputable people.
It's pretty amazing. 34 pretty high-ranking people have gone on record. And if you haven't heard anything about this, stay tuned for the next hour. And then after the first half hour, we'll open up the phones and take some of your calls if you have any questions about all this. It's all coming up after the news with Jay Harper, 1 o'clock now on Super Talk 99.7.